Hello everyone and welcome back to the Reddit Nights channel. I am Anthony and today I'm going to be reading a story about a betrayed spouse in the perspective of the person who cheated. And later on there will be a post from the betrayed spouse themselves. And the story is from the person who calls himself I Want the Old Him Back on Reddit. And the story is called I Turned Him Into a Monster and I Hope I Can Change Him Back to the Man He Once Was. This is going to be a bit long, but this is acting as a way for me to vent and ask for other waywards for advice in fixing my marriage. It's been going on for 7 months since my husband discovered my affair. The both of us are 39 and my husband before discovery was sweet. He's not a perfect man, he has his quirks, but I was his world. Our family was his world. He worked long hours to make sure I stayed home and raised our son and daughter. He would always do these sweet things just to brighten my day, and it did. My husband was the opposite. In high school, he was rude, charming, and obnoxious. He used to get into a lot of fights and had a lot of girlfriends. Yet, for some reason, the summer before senior year, he wanted to talk to me. I was the nerdy girl into video games, comic books, and cosplay. He was always nice to me ever since we moved into our town in 8th grade. He was different, his family was different, and everyone wanted to hang out with him. I was invited to my first party because of him. He taught me how to dance salsa and then he fell with the popular crowd and I thought that was it. But that summer he walked into the comics shop I was working in and just hung out all day talking to me and even walked me home. One day became many and we were dating by summer's end. I had the greatest senior year of my life. I was part of the popular crowd and I went to so many parties, but my favorite moment was when it was just the two of us. Of course, I never slacked off. I studied hard and I made him study with me. We both got into the same college and we were married shortly after graduation. Our son came a year and a half later and our daughter 20 months after that. My husband worked hard for us during all of this. He had trouble finding a job because he had no experience, so he worked odd jobs in construction, grave digging, janitorial, and as a receptionist until he found a company that would give him a chance as a computer tech. My husband put on a lot of weight during that time, but it never decreased his sexual appetite. As for me, I kept my figure and maintained it, and soon we looked like a cartoony couple, a fat yet muscular man with a slender, fit wife. We even dressed as Barney and Betty Rubble one Halloween that emphasized that cliche. It's not like he didn't work out, he just had a hard time losing the body fat, but his sexual appetite was always high. For me, it was decreasing. It's not like I didn't want to have sex, it's just that I wasn't in the mood, and as the years passed, I wasn't in the mood for sexual favors as well. I was always tired. The kids really drained me. Cooking and cleaning really drained me. Yes, he did help with the laundry, cooking, and cleaning. Made sure Saturday was takeout day and Sunday was daddy cook day. But I was still tired and not in the mood. I used to love it when he took it from me, but I still gave him more no's and yes. It would affect his mood the longer we didn't have it. He'll snap and complain, and when we did have sex, he would turn it into a marathon, and I would hate it because I would be sore for the next week and he would still want more. He would ask me to cosplay for him and I didn't want to do it. However, he had no issues wearing the costumes I made for him for comic and video game conventions, knowing that he really hated it. Our lack of sex was a big issue for him. We even went to couple counseling and our counselor said my husband was a borderline sex addict, but he only wanted to have sex with me. I then had myself checked out and from my examination, it turned out that I have a low... I then had myself checked out, and from my examination, it turned out that I have low estrogen and was even given several medications for it, but it still didn't work. My doctor soon told me that I was suffering from female impotence, something that I thought was made up. The affair wasn't planned. It wasn't romantic or something grandiose. It wasn't something that happened. I was out with my friends. We're all married, we all go to the same church, and we were just bowling and having fun. It was the first time since the lockdowns we got together, and we just had a blast. At the end of the game, all the ladies left, and instead of going home, I went to the lounge so I can wait out the buzz I had, and that was where I met my affair partner. He was young, in his early 20s, and he noticed I was reading a manga on my phone, and we began talking. I wish I could blame it on the alcohol, but I was only buzzed. I wish I could blame it on being lonely, but my husband always wanted me and gave me plenty of attention. I wish I could say I had an unhappy marriage, but we were very happy. In all honesty, I still don't know why I did it. I mean, I know how it happened. We talked for a few hours, he flirted, and I flirted back. He walked me to my car and he kissed me. Instead of pushing him away, I kissed him back, and we had sex in a motel next door. But I don't know why I did it. It didn't last that long. At first, he tried to have me go down on him and I refused. We just went at it and it was very unsatisfying. About halfway through, I realized what the hell I was doing, and I shoved him off of me, apologized, got dressed, and left. When I came home, my husband was asleep with the kid on the sofa, and I went into the shower and cried about what I did. I told myself it was a mistake and it would never happen again. When I came out of the shower, I let my husband and kids sleep on the sofa, went to bed, curled up in a ball, and cried myself to sleep. The next day, I wanted to tell him the truth, but I was too scared. So I pretended it never happened. For 5 weeks, I pretended it never happened, and I soon realized I was late. I took a pregnancy test, and it showed positive, and I couldn't understand how. My husband and I did have sex twice, but he had a vasectomy, and I made sure the night of the affair that man wore a condom. And even so, he never finished. I went to the doctor, and it turned out I was pregnant, which created a very awkward conversation. We came to the conclusion that the man must have removed the condom, and the doctor was telling me it could have been the pre-com that did it. I was scared, and I scheduled an abortion. I couldn't keep this child. I couldn't do that to him. I was planning to keep this a secret. I got home, cried, and steadied myself for when the kids got home. But my husband came home early. I forced out a smile when he came home, but he was looking at me with rage. Our health equity emailed him with a new claim on the insurance. He asked who was the father, and I started crying. He repeated himself and asked how long was the affair. I was truthful. I told him it was a one-time thing, and I pushed him off me, but he didn't believe me. So he repeated himself, but this time he yelled, and it felt like it went through my body. I told him it was the truth, and he grabbed me by the chin and slammed me against the wall. This was the first time he has ever done this to me, but his eyes were bloodshot, and he was fighting back tears. He wanted to know the details, what we did, what he looked like, where we met, and then called me a slut in Spanish before walking out of the house. I cried and had my sister pick up my kids because I needed to be alone when he got home. He didn't come home until after midnight. I met him by the door and gasped because he had a black eye, his shirt had blood stains, and his fists were bruised. I asked if he was okay, but he shoved me and told me that the blood wasn't his before entering the bathroom and slamming the door closed. I sat by the stairs, waiting for him to come out, and when he did, he sneered at me and went to the living room. Again, I tried to talk to him, but I wanted to know who he fought with, but he ignored me at first. Eventually, he looked at me and said, "Who do you think I had a fight with?" I turned white, and he resumed watching TV. I went to the bowling alley the following day and asked around. Somehow, my husband found out who the guy was and they fought. Fights in the alley are almost a daily thing in our town. It's to a point unless someone is shot, stabbed, or killed, the sheriff won't bother showing up. For the next week, he kicked me out of our room and had me sleep on the sofa. I tried twice to sneak back onto the bed. The first time he yelled at me to get out, and the second time he shoved me off the bed. I just looked at him when I got off the floor and no words were said, but I went back to the sofa and cried. On the day of the abortion appointment, he told me that I better get it done, and I nodded. I was scared to do it alone, and he looked at me with such hate when I asked him to come with me and then told me to go fuck myself. When I got back from the procedure, there were pods outside the garage, and my husband and his friends were uploading the garage into them. I asked what was going on, and he told me that it was none of my fucking business. His friends looked at him in shock, and I went inside. A few hours later, there was a lot of hammering, and I went to go look at what was going on, and he was turning the garage into an apartment. I tried to apologize and talk to him, but he ignored me. Then one day, I blew up apologizing for everything, and that just angered him. He told me that he was not going to waste any energy on me. He told me that if he had it his way, he would divorce me, but according to the many lawyers he spoke to, after alimony and child support, he couldn't afford to live on his own, so he was stuck with me. The first month was awkward, because it's hard to explain to the kids what was happening. I tried to invite him over to eat, but he ignored me. He would come home, check on the kids, ignore me, and go into his garage apartment. The second month I begged him to go to counseling, and he went, but remained quiet only to yell at me about cheating on him, and I had no excuse. Then came the gut punch. I learned he had been screwing around with a lot of women. I thought he was lying just to hurt me, but the expression on his face said otherwise. The counselor asked him how many, and he said he doesn't keep count, but said he has been hooking up with random women almost every other day for the past 3 weeks. He needed to feel like a man and feel wanted. He's been using websites and apps, and when the counselor told him that 2 wrongs don't make a right, he fired back by telling her it wasn't 2 wrongs. I was the one who cheated, broke our vows, lied, got pregnant, and tried to hide it. He's just trying to adapt to his new situation where we pretend to be the happy couple when we're outside, but are just roommates when we get home. It hurt me, but to me, I saw this as a way to still win him back. The following month, he began to talk to various women in front of me, and this time I had enough, and I told him that I wanted a divorce, and he laughed at me. Told me to go right ahead, but he would make sure everyone knows what happened. He would scream it from the hills, post it on our family's Facebook page, and place it on our annual holiday newsletter to all of our friends and family. That quickly shut me up, and he told me to leave, but I didn't want to. We argued and argued. It felt good to get some sort of emotion from him, and somehow we ended up having sex that lasted for hours. When we were done, I was happy. I thought we were healing, but he told me to get out, that my usefulness overstayed my welcome. I couldn't believe he said that to me, but I left. For the past few months now, it's been that way. Every once in a while, we will hook up. He will kick me out as soon as he is finished. He will still go out, and I know he's still hooking up with different women. However, we've been talking more, especially during counseling, but we're not healing. During one of our sessions, he told the counselor that something is broken in him. When he looks at me, he feels like he wasted years of his life and is now going through the motions. I asked him if there was any way we can start over, and he told me that as soon as the kids are old enough for him not to pay child support, he'll be divorcing me, and walked out. If he's so dead set on divorcing me, then why still go to counseling every week? I'm convinced he's just saying these things just to hurt me. The other day was our anniversary, and our family threw us a party. He played the part of a happy husband, and I hated myself for what I did to him. Missed the way our marriage used to be, the way he held my hand and kissed my cheek during the party. Even the sappy speech he made, I wanted to believe it. When we got home, he put the kids to bed, and I tried to initiate sex. And we did, but as soon as it was over, he got up and left. I begged him to stay, but he just ignored me, and I cried myself to sleep. I need help. I want my husband back. I want our life back. Is there any wayward who has been through this or something similar who can give me advice on fixing this marriage? Please help me. And now we take a look at some of the comments. With one of them saying, "This is a tough one. My husband has similar reactions like your husband. Mine is sleeping around. He avoided me, wouldn't acknowledge me. I think for him it's hard to accept because, in your own words, he did everything a perfect husband does. It also sounds like you guys were together for 20 years, so in his eyes he missed out on life providing for someone who can throw it away without cause. Once the love cord is so severely broken, it sometimes can't be repaired. Are you in individual counseling? If not, get in ASAP. Figure out your why and work on yourself for you. I don't think he will be able to entertain the thought of reconciliation until you figure out your why." OP responds, "We are in couples counseling once a week, and I am individual counseling every other week. We recently convinced him, thanks to our counselor, to go to individually counseling as well. His first appointment is this Friday." Mind you, this was 2 years ago. Another comment goes, "It's been 7 months, and I think you waited too long, maybe. Not blaming or anything, but let me ask you this. What consequences did you suffer? Did you provide him written timeline? Did you tell your families? Did you give him all passwords, etc.? I know many of these don't even matter, given the nature of your affair, but these things prove your remorse and willingness to work. The way you wrote, you didn't even give AP's name to your husband, and instead of not caring, you went to ensure. Think, what would it look like from your husband's perspective? Well, water under the bridge. You can write a letter to him. You can tell him that you will only look for child support and no alimony if that's what he wants. Probably not what you want, but keeping you there isn't helping him heal, so it will go to divorce when the kids are old enough. In fact, the kids are suffering too. Think about it. If it's feasible, you should take this route." OP responds, "In the beginning, I did go to several attorneys to see what my husband said was true, and despite my requesting the divorce to be 50-50 and non-contested, I was told that it didn't matter what I want from him. It would be up to the judge and the laws of the state. Even if we file no attorneys involved, the judge has the final say. In my state, he would lose everything, and I can't do that to him. I hurt him enough already." One last comment goes, "I'm sorry for both you and your husband, OP. A few points. It generally sounds like you're in a culture where men are particularly macho. Saying this because your husband may have a particularly heightened sense of emasculation. You had a one-night stand and got pregnant from it. It sounds like that totally broke him, and that's totally understandable as well, particularly given the above point. At this point, are you able to physically separate for a while? You guys are in counseling regularly, but it doesn't seem like he's been given any space to recover/heal. I know kids complicate this, but you really need to give him some space. Asking him regularly for sex/affection isn't helping him or your marriage at this time. Sleeping with multiple women every week as a response to your one-night stand isn't a rational response, but you've broken him, and now he feels that's what he has to do to build up his masculinity. You have to consider whether this is something you can tolerate going forward. Has he shown any signs he'll stop such behavior? Clearly it is hurting you, and obviously it's not good for any reconciliation either. It sounds like your husband will need a long time to heal. In order to potentially have your marriage back, you have to first be willing to lose it. Pretending to be a happy couple isn't doing either of you any favors. Easy to say from the sidelines, I know. He's made it very clear that the marriage is over. You should respect that and not pretend that it is still continuing. Trying to persuade him every day to reconcile with him isn't helping him recover. You should stop, give him distance, give yourself distance, and continue your own improvement. And if you genuinely want divorce as well, and can't tolerate his behavior on an ongoing basis, which, regardless of your actions, you have a right to do, consult a lawyer and prioritize your children. Good luck, OP. OP responds, yes, my husband's culture is indeed very macho, as you put it. When we started dating, his family didn't approve because of my condition, but he didn't care. He made things work for us. His family adapted to my condition, and it's made them very accepting. When we graduated college and got married, my family never thought that would happen, and it made them very happy. It was a cosplay wedding, but it was fun. We were supposed to go to Puerto Rico for our honeymoon so I can meet the rest of his family, but he surprised me with a trip to Japan, and I was so happy. He understood me. He was very patient with me, and I appreciated him for that. I always asked why he wanted to be with me, and he told me from the moment I danced with him. He knew I was special. Thought it was beautiful seeing me coming to school in a new cosplay costume almost every day, and he stood up for me when everyone made fun of me. He didn't ask me out because everyone told him that I had mental problems. I had issues. I didn't have issues, I'm just autistic, and he didn't care. He was my first. At that time, I never thought I would get married or have children, and I was okay with that. Now I can't live without him, which is why I can't understand why I cheated. He's mad at me, and despite my outbursts, freakouts, and situation, he was never mad at me. When I got pregnant, I was so scared. I didn't want our child to be like me, and my freakouts were really bad during the second pregnancy. So he had a vasectomy to ease my mind, and I hurt him. For me, what he's doing is tolerable in consideration of all the stress I placed on him. There are not many people who would knowingly marry someone on the spectrum. To be honest, I don't feel bad for OP. She made a decision that seemingly came from out of nowhere that ruined the entire foundation of her family and her marriage. And while I don't believe physical violence is the answer for things like this, I do understand why the husband was upset to such a level. Especially when you've dedicated so much time, so much love, and so much effort into a relationship. He even went and got a vasectomy as a way to help his wife calm down about the freakouts of their kids potentially being autistic. The husband is clearly a good man and has good intentions, but he's also taking out a lot of stress the wrong way. I don't believe having sex with a whole bunch of people randomly is a way to properly cope with the stress that he's dealing with. I do believe, however, that the fact that he is going to counseling means that he has not entirely given up on the situation. He does want this to work, and he does still care about his wife. And OP has a lot of work to do if she wants this to work. Speaking of the OP's husband, the next post is actually from her husband, and it says, "Am I a monster? I am using my possible ex-wife account to say my piece. I was told to post here. We're not as one after her infidelity. I'm still dealing with it in an unhealthy manner. When my possible ex-wife sat me down and showed me her post about what she did, and I do not know if I was acting like a monster. I'm hurt, I'm angry, and she left out her condition. My possible ex has atypical autism with savant disorder. She could hear any tune and play it flawlessly. Just by looking at someone, she knows their measurements and can make them any clothing. When I met her, I liked her a lot, but everyone kept telling me not to date her because she wasn't right in the head. However, I was drawn to her. I loved the fact she came to school every day dressed in the outfits and costumes she made. I would talk to her every time about her outfits, learn about different anime and comic characters. It wasn't my thing, but seeing her face light up just put a smile on my face. I began learning about her condition. In the 90s, the internet wasn't widely available, so I went to the library and several clinics and spoke to many people familiar with autism so I can be with her. I wanted to do the work because she was worth it. My friends and family thought I was insane. Hell, even her parents were against it. But we started dating, she began making efforts, and was improving. We've been seeing the same counselor since we started dating. mostly for her. However, sometimes it does help me. Yes, I had to make a lot of compromises for her. I dealt with a lot of her tantrums and when she had a sensory situation. I dealt with her a lot because I loved her. To me, she was worth it. We were married a month after graduating college. She wanted a cosplay wedding, and I did it because it made her comfortable. Sex anywhere from 1 to 6 times a month, sometimes not at all. Her mood swings and her obsessions with her manga, or her obsessions with making sure our kids don't have ASD. I wanted more children, but due to her issues and fears about passing her ASD, I got a vasectomy. That messed with me for a while. I really wanted more kids. When you're with someone with ASD, it's not like what they show on TV. I watch shows like The Good Doctor or Atypical, and they capture my wife's ASD perfectly. However, the way the friends and family act around them is TV magic. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I'm just trying to paint a picture. Yes, I'm fat, and I've been struggling and losing my excess body fat for years. I used to be a football player, and in high school, I was 250 pounds, all muscle. At the time of the affair, I was 228 with man boobs in the gut. The doctor told me it's stretched skin, but it does make me self-conscious when I look at myself in the mirror. My possible ex was everything to me. She was the only thing on my mind. I didn't want to masturbate because I only wanted her. The lack of sex between us was the main issue for me. Oral was basically non-existent. Well, except when we had, quote, porn sex, unquote. But even then, she would go down on me for 10 minutes, while I can be down on her for 3 times that amount. Even then, when it was over, she was done. Round 2 or 3 were extremely rare. I can count on both hands how many BJs and anal I got through our 26 years together. I tried to spice things up. Tried to have her wear her cosplay costumes. But I would get yes to death. At night, she would wait till it was late as possible to then want to have sex. But by that time, I was tired. I tried to get her to go on a hike so we can have sex in the woods, but that got turned down. One time, I took off on a Friday and waited for the kids to go to school and tried to have sex with my wife and was denied. My wife never said I love you first. She eventually stopped showing me affection. She doesn't kiss me first. She doesn't lean against me when we're sitting down. Everything is a response. Nothing is initiated, and I was blind. I loved her. Yes, I voiced my issues with her. Yes, I expressed my frustration. Yes, I tried to make compromises. And yes, I can be a bit of a jerk when I'm not having sex. But when you're the one who's constantly giving and the other is just taking while making you feel guilty when you want to feel wanted, it gets old. Have I ever thought about cheating on her? Never. Have I had opportunities? Plenty. So when I got that email telling me that my wife was knocked up, I didn't take it well. I did put my hands on her because I was hurt. She was my wife. She was the love of my life. The only woman I vowed my loyalty to, and she fucking cheated. I needed to know how many times. I believed her when she told me it was only once. At the bowling alley, I sat at the bar for hours talking to random guys about women they picked up at the alley. It took a while, and I found them, and then I attacked them. Was I wrong? Maybe, but it did make me feel good. I couldn't stand the sight of her. I went to several attorneys and I was told that because she has ASD and we have 2 children together, after alimony and child support, my personal income will be $750 a month, and I was told that it would be more financially beneficial if I just stayed married. Even a non-contested or no lawyer divorce would need the same because it would be the judge's decision, and I was told going that route, my take home might be $500 a month. So I converted my garage into an apartment. I treated my possible ex like shit. Was it wrong for making sure she got an abortion? For me, no. Why would I want a constant reminder of her affair around me? I would have never looked at that child as if it was my own. I would never be a father to that kid. To me, that would be more damaging to a child. A few days after her abortion, I downloaded Tinder, and for the first time in 26 years, I had sex with another woman. I felt guilty. I had a nervous stomach, and I almost ran out of the room. But the woman made me feel wanted, and it felt good. Every woman I met through the apps made me feel wanted, and I went overboard. It wasn't the sex I thought I needed or wanted. It was the initiation and the affection. I know that might make me sound shallow, but when I said this during a counseling session, our counselor understood what I was saying. My possible ex kept telling me she didn't know why she cheated, which confused me. I could ask her to tell me about a random day in the years we've been together, and she would tell me every little detail about that day, and yet, this one slips her fucking mind. I told her I slept with those women to hurt her, to make me feel like a man after she cheated. And I kept going because I was getting something from these random hookups that she wasn't giving me for years. The times my possible ex and I hooked up didn't feel the same as before. It felt to me that she was doing everything just to try to fix us, like she was on a purpose, and I felt it. She wasn't having sex with me because she wanted to be with me. She was having sex with me to fix what she did. So I kicked her out when it was done. Every time I felt it. It's not because she wanted to be with me. She's doing it because she wants to fix our marriage. I expressed my feelings on the matter, and she was shocked that I said that. She insisted that she wanted to have sex with me, that she wanted us to be the same, and I told her even if we start over, it will never be the same. So I began to start seeing a therapist. Mostly it helped me overcome this trauma because an affair is traumatic. It cuts deep and it does make you feel empty. It makes you feel like all the time you spent together was for nothing. All the sacrifices made were a joke at your expense. In the beginning, I had my kids tested to make sure they were mine. I couldn't believe anything out of my possible ex's mouth. She tried to get her counselor to get her sodium pentanol so she can prove to me that she never cheated before and didn't mean to cheat. However, I told her it wouldn't make a difference. I deleted my apps and haven't done anything in 2 months. 3 weeks ago, my possible ex and I had sex. It was our 21st wedding anniversary. However, when we were having sex, I could tell she was doing it out of obligation because it was our anniversary, and I left when it was done. I told her ad nauseum what I need, and it's still not clicking. So I told her if she truly wants to fix this, she needs to tell her parents what happened. I will not tell my friends and family. They will convince me to leave her, as much as they like her. They always had issues with her ASD. Her parents, however, would keep it between us, and they can help her if I continue to decide to leave her. My oldest is 11, and my second born just turned 10. Unless I get a massive raise, I will be here for the next 8 years. That's a long time under the same roof to hate someone. Would I forgive her? I don't know, but I will never forget. I can honestly say I don't see her the same way. I no longer see this woman who I would do anything to make her happy. I no longer see my wife. I see a woman who broke my heart. They say time heals all wounds, but it's going to be a long while before mine starts to heal. A very long time. After hearing the husband's response, I can say that I agree with the majority of everything he's done. This is a man that is clearly hurt, and you can tell that he still loves her but is more hurt about the pain than anything else. I don't blame him for being upset about some of the details that OP held back in the post. Knowing that she has autism, it adds a different layer to the story. and is requiring all of us to maybe have a different type of understanding regarding this perspective. Personally, I don't know many people who are on the spectrum. I do not know how they all act or their mannerisms. But for him to want to still be with OP despite the hurdles and taking them head on and adjusting on the fly, and despite everyone telling him to leave, he stayed. And not only did he stay, he fell in love with her, and for 26 years they were a solid unit. For that to happen makes OP's cheating so much more confusing. It makes it so much more confusing and that much more hurtful. Add the fact that the husband mentioned that the original OP never took initiative when it came to being with him. It was always responsive. As a man, I can say that only being responsive and not taking the first step can be annoying. Not having the proper feedback from your partner can be very annoying, and it can make you think twice about certain things. OP's cheating still makes no sense. So, to this point, I still believe she's deserving everything that's coming to her right now. There appears to be one update to this story, and the update says, "Hello everyone, this is an update to the post and a link to the first one. It's been 3 months and it's been hard. Slow and steady would be the best way of saying it. My husband and I told my parents shortly after his post. We visited them, we sat down, and they were angry at my husband. They were angry at him because they told him that something like this would happen. Because of my ASD, I was extremely gullible and highly suggestible. That him treating me normal would bite him in the ass, and my affair proved it. This infuriated him so much that he screamed at my parents. It's the first time he ever raised at them. I had a sensory outburst during this, and I remembered why I went to that man. However, I was more concerned about my husband. He basically broke down while yelling at my parents. He cried for the first time since all of this, and I ignored the pain and anxiety that I was having to comfort him. Seeing me do this made my parents cry, and he excused himself, but I followed him. When we got home, I told him everything. How he approached me, the conversation we were having about Goblin Slayer, and that I was only there to wait out the buzz I was having. But we were just talking about one manga after another, and then I told him I had to leave. He insisted on walking me to the car. When he kissed me, I just let it happen. I didn't want the stranger to be upset with me, and I have no excuse. What I did was wrong, stupid, irrational, and plain selfish. I kept talking, and he just listened. I could see it in his eyes. He was so angry, but he refrained from saying or doing anything. He just listened. A week went by, and he began going to a support group for betrayed spouses twice a week in the next town over. I didn't know a group like that existed, but he showed me the site in the community center, and I even went to a meeting with him. Hearing his pain was devastating. Then listening to others like him was overwhelming. The sheer magnitude of it was soul-crushing. Last month, he was acting better and even came back into the house. We weren't back to normal. We were far from it, but we were finding a new footing. He even surprised me with a dinner date 2 weeks back. Everything was going great. We were talking and laughing, and there was a moment. I saw it. I felt it. Then our waiter showed up, and it was him. The man who I slept with. And in a split second, my husband went from this sweet man to a rampaging beast, and he beat that man. I grabbed my head and cried. The screaming was too much for me. He placed a noise-canceling headset on my ears and escorted me out. I was crying. I thought he was going to get arrested. We had reservations, but the police never came to our house. He's been back in our garage since then. He's been going to the support group twice a week and seeing his therapist and our counselor. He's struggling hard, and I wish I can undo everything. I miss us. That's the end of the update. Honestly, my opinion remains the same. OP ruined something that was practically perfect. She ruined a fantastic relationship and doesn't have a clear reason why. I don't feel bad for OP, I feel bad for OP's husband. I wish them both the best of luck. And for now, that will be the end of this video. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for listening to this story with me. If you like this content and you would like more, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Everything that you do helps make this channel a better place for content. I'm actually really close to 2,500 subscribers. This is absolutely crazy development. I don't even know what to do to help this get any better. I'm just grateful for everything that's going on. I will continue to make shorts, and I'm feeling a bit more comfortable about making videos like these. I will probably do a lot more when I have the time, when I'm not at work. Just talking about these stories and giving you guys a chance to look into my thoughts is actually kind of nice. So, with that in mind, I bid you all adieu. And as always, stay safe and have a great day.